The rain came down hard that morning, hammering the streets like 1,000 angry fists. Water flooded the gutters and splashed across the sidewalks as people hurried past, umbrellas tilted forward, faces hidden, hearts closed. No one stopped. No one looked back. Everyone had somewhere important to be. Everyone except Lina Moore. She stood at the edge of the busy roadside, gripping a small, crumpled bill in her trembling fingers. It was damp from the rain that had soaked through her red blouse and clung to her white skirt. Her long braids stuck to her shoulders, heavy and wet. But she didn't move. She couldn't. Her phone buzzed in her bag. She pulled it out with shaking hands and stared at the screen. Reminder, job interview, 9:30 a.m. Don't be late. Her stomach twisted. This interview was everything. It was her only chance to escape the cycle of unpaid bills, empty cupboards, and sleepless nights worrying about her sick mother. If she got this job, she could finally breathe again. She could pay the rent, buy medicine, stop being invisible. But first, she had to get there. And the money in her hand, that was her bus fare. Her only way to make it on time. She looked down at the bill again, worn and soft from being folded and unfolded too many times. It wasn't much. Just enough for a short ride across town. Just enough to keep her dream alive. Then she heard it. A voice. Weak. Broken. Barely louder than the rain. Please help me. Lina's head turned slowly to the left. There, sitting on a soaked wooden bench under the pouring sky, was an old man. His clothes hung off his thin frame like rags. His beard was gray and wild, untrimmed for months. His hands shook as he held them out, palms open, begging the world for mercy. But the world walked past him, eyes forward, heart shut. Lina's chest tightened. She had seen him before, many times. He was always there at that same bench, asking for help. And like everyone else, she had walked past him too. Not because she was cruel, but because she had nothing to give. Until today, the old man lifted his head. His eyes, clouded with age and pain, met hers. And in that moment, something inside her cracked open. My child, he whispered, his voice trembling like his hands. I haven't eaten since yesterday. Do you have anything? Anything at all? Lina swallowed hard. She looked down at the money in her hand, then back at him, then at her phone screen, still glowing with the interview reminder. 30 minutes. That's all she had. If she gave him this money, she would have to walk. No, not walk, run. Under the rain. In the heat that would come after. For over 30 minutes. And even then, she might not make it. She might lose everything. Her fingers tightened around the bill. Papa, she said softly, her voice almost lost in the rain. I don't have anything else. This is my last money. I'm going for a job interview. If I don't take the bus, I'll be late. She turned to walk away, but her feet wouldn't move. Something deep inside her, something louder than fear, stronger than logic, refused to let her leave him there. She turned back. The old man was still looking at her. Not with anger, not with judgment, just hope. The kind of hope that's been crushed 1,000 times but still dares to flicker. Lina took a deep breath, and she stepped forward, bent down, and pressed the damp bill into his trembling palm. Papa, she said quietly, her voice steady now. Take it. This is my last money, but it's from my heart. Don't worry about me. I'll walk. I've walked farther before. I can manage. The old man stared at her, his mouth slightly open, his eyes wide with shock. No, my child, he said, his voice breaking. You need this more than I do. Please, take it back. Lina smiled gently, even as tears mixed with the rain on her cheeks. Papa, let me help you today. Hunger is painful. I know what it feels like to go without. But I have to believe, that God will help me reach my interview. You need this now. So please, take it. The old man's eyes filled with tears. His lips trembled as he whispered, You are a rare child. So many people pass me every day, but none of them stopped. None of them saw me. Lina's heart swelled. She nodded once, then turned and started walking. The rain poured harder. The road ahead was long. Her shoes squelched with every step. Her phone buzzed again, reminding her of the time slipping away. But for the first time in a long time, Lina Moore felt something she hadn't felt in years. Peace. What happens next will leave you speechless. Keep watching to find out. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share this story with someone who needs to hear it today. Let's go. Lina stood there in the rain, her hands still extended, the old man's trembling fingers wrapped loosely around the money she had just given him. But before she could turn away completely, a memory flashed through her mind. Her mother, lying in their small, cramped room, too weak to stand, too sick to eat. The cough that rattled her chest every night, keeping them both awake. The pills they could no longer afford. The rent notice pinned to their door with red letters screaming, "Final warning." Lina's breath caught in her throat. This interview wasn't just about her. It was about survival. It was about keeping the roof over their heads. It was about buying her mother one more week, one more chance, one more breath. And she had just given away the only thing standing between her and complete failure. Her heart pounded. Panic crept up her spine like ice. She opened her handbag again, fingers fumbling through the worn fabric lining. Maybe she missed something. Maybe there was a coin tucked in a corner. A forgotten bill folded in a pocket. Anything. Nothing. She checked the side pouch. Empty. She checked the inner zipper. Empty. She turned the bag upside down and shook it gently. A few grains of rice from yesterday's lunch fell out. A crumpled tissue. A broken pen. No money. No backup. No miracle. Lina's hands dropped to her sides. The rain poured harder now, soaking through her blouse, chilling her skin. She looked up at the sky, blinking through the water streaming down her face. God, what have I done? She glanced at her phone again. The time glowed cruelly back at her. 28 minutes. If she walked, no, if she ran, she might make it. But not in the rain. Not in these shoes. Not with the road flooded and slippery. She would arrive late, drenched, gasping for air. And they would take one look at her and send her away. She had seen it happen to others. Desperation wasn't attractive. Struggle wasn't charming. Employers wanted someone polished, put together, confident, not someone who looked like they had crawled out of a storm. Lina turned away from the old man, her chest tight, her mind screaming at her to run, to move, to go now before it was too late. But her feet wouldn't move. She stood there, frozen, as people rushed past her on both sides. Umbrellas bobbed up and down. Voices shouted over the rain. Yellow buses roared by, splashing water onto the curb. And still, she couldn't move. Something inside her, something deeper than fear, stronger than logic, louder than survival, refused to let her go. She turned back. The old man was still sitting there, staring down at the money in his hand like it was a treasure he didn't deserve. His shoulders shook, not from the cold, from something else. Lina's heart broke all over again. She walked back toward him, her shoes squelching in the puddles. She didn't think. She didn't plan. She just moved. And then, without a word, she knelt down in front of him. The rain hammered against her back. The water soaked through her skirt, cold and heavy. But she didn't care. She reached out and gently closed his trembling fingers around the bill, holding his hand in both of hers. "Papa," she said softly, looking into his eyes. "Please, take it." The old man's face crumpled. Tears spilled down his cheeks, mixing with the rain. "No, my child," he whispered, his voice cracking. "You don't understand. You need this. I can see it in your eyes. You're suffering too." Lina nodded, her own tears falling now. "I am," she admitted. "But I'm young. I'm strong. I can walk. I can endure hunger for one more day." She squeezed his hand gently. "But you, Papa, you may not. I don't know when you last ate. I don't know when you'll eat again. But I know this. I can't walk away and pretend I didn't see you. I can't do it." The old man stared at her, his lips trembling, his eyes wide with disbelief. "Why?" he whispered. "Why would you do this? You don't even know me." Lina smiled softly, even as her heart ached. "Because someone once helped me when I had nothing. And because I believe," she paused, her voice shaking, "I have to believe that kindness comes back. Maybe not today. Maybe not tomorrow. But somehow, somewhere." The old man's tears fell faster now. He lifted his free hand and placed it on top of hers. "You are a blessing," he said, his voice thick with emotion. "A rare soul in a world that has forgotten how to care. May God protect you. May He open every door you walk toward." May he give you more than you gave me. Lina's throat tightened. She nodded, unable to speak. Then she stood up, her knees wet and muddy, her body shaking from the cold. She gave him one last look, a look full of warmth, of hope, of something she couldn't name. And then she turned and walked away. The rain poured down harder than ever. Her phone buzzed again. 25 minutes left. But as she walked, something strange happened. The weight in her chest lifted. The panic faded. And in its place, a quiet, steady peace settled over her heart. She didn't know why. She didn't understand it. But for the first time in a long time, she felt light. She didn't know that the man she had just helped was Harold Stone, a billionaire who had vanished from the world 5 years ago. A man who had once owned empires, commanded rooms, and shaped destinies. A man who had given it all up to live in the shadows, searching for one thing he had lost long ago: humanity. And today, in the rain, he had found it, in a girl named Lina Moore. What Lina doesn't know yet is that this one act of kindness is about to change her life forever. But how? And what will Harold do next? Keep watching to find out. If this story is touching your heart, like this video, subscribe, and share it with someone who needs hope today. By the time Lina reached the mansion, her legs were trembling. Her feet ached. Her lungs burned from running the last 10 minutes through flooded streets and steep roads. She stopped at the edge of the property and stared up at the towering gates in front of her. Massive, black, gleaming even in the rain. Beyond them stood a house that didn't belong in her world. It was enormous, wrapped in white stone and tall glass windows that reflected the gray sky. Perfectly trimmed hedges lined the driveway. A marble fountain sat in the center, water cascading down even as the rain poured around it. Lina looked down at herself. Her red blouse clung to her skin, soaked through and wrinkled. Her white skirt was splattered with mud from the knees down. Her braids dripped water onto her shoulders. Her shoes squelched with every step. She looked like someone who had barely survived a storm. And she had. She glanced at her phone. 9:47 a.m. 17 minutes late. Her heart sank, but she had come this far. She couldn't turn back now. She took a deep breath, wiped the rain from her face with the back of her hand, and straightened her posture. Then she walked up to the gate and pressed the intercom button. A few seconds passed. Then a sharp, irritated voice crackled through the speaker. "Who is it?" Lina cleared her throat. "Good morning. My name is Lina Moore. I'm here for the house help interview." Silence. Then a buzz. The gates slowly swung open. Lina walked through, her shoes leaving wet prints on the pristine stone pathway. She approached the front door, her heart pounding so hard she could hear it in her ears. She raised her hand and knocked softly. The door opened almost immediately, and standing there, framed by the warm golden light of the entrance hall, was Vivian Clark. She was stunning, tall and slender, dressed in a cream silk blouse and tailored black pants. Her hair was pulled back into a sleek bun. Her makeup was flawless. Her nails were painted a deep crimson. Diamond studs sparkled in her ears. She looked like she had stepped out of a magazine. And the moment her eyes landed on Lina, her expression twisted into something cold and cruel. Vivian's gaze traveled slowly from Lina's wet braids down to her muddy shoes. Her lips curled into a sneer. "This is what they sent me," she said, her voice dripping with disdain. Lina's stomach dropped. She forced herself to smile politely. "I'm sorry I'm late, ma'am. There was heavy rain and "You're not just late," Vivian interrupted, folding her arms across her chest. "You're a disaster. Look at you. Soaking wet. Covered in mud. Do you think this is acceptable?" Lina's throat tightened. "I'm sorry, ma'am. I didn't have money for transport. I had to walk. But I promise if you give me a chance." Vivian let out a sharp, mocking laugh. "Walk? You walk here." She tilted her head, her eyes narrowing. "Let me guess. You're one of those desperate girls, aren't you? The ones who show up looking pitiful, hoping someone will feel sorry for them." Lina's hands trembled. She clasped them together in front of her, trying to steady herself. "Ma'am, I'm not here to make excuses. I'm here because I need this job. My mother is very sick. We haven't been able to pay rent. I just need a chance to prove I can work hard and—" "Stop," Vivian said sharply, raising one manicured hand. Lina fell silent. Vivian stepped closer, her eyes cold and calculating. "Let me tell you something, girl," she said, her voice low and venomous. "I know exactly what you're doing. You didn't come here for a job. You came here because you heard about this house, about the man who lives here, about his money." Lina's eyes widened. "What? No, don't lie to me," Vivian snapped. "Girls like you always have the same plan. Show up looking helpless. Cry a little, play the victim, then try to get close to my fiancé." Lina shook her head quickly, tears stinging her eyes. "Ma'am, I swear, I don't even know who your fiancé is. I just came for the interview. Please, enough." Vivian's voice was like a whip crack. She stepped back, her hand already on the door. "You're not getting this job," she said coldly, "and you're not stepping foot in this house. You're late. You're unpresentable. And you're exactly the kind of person I don't want anywhere near my home." Lina's vision blurred with tears. Her voice broke. "Please, ma'am. Please. I walked for so long. I gave up everything to be here. I just need one chance. Just one. Get out." Vivian's eyes burned with contempt. "Before I call security and have you dragged off this property." Lina stood there, frozen, her chest heaving, her heart shattered into 1,000 pieces. And then, without another word, Vivian slammed the door. The sound echoed through the air like a gunshot. Lina stood there for a moment, staring at the closed door. Rain poured down around her. Her body shook, not from the cold, from the humiliation, from the crushing weight of failure. She had given away her last money to help someone in need. And this was her reward. Slowly, she turned and walked back down the pathway. Her legs felt heavy. Her heart felt heavier. She didn't cry. She didn't scream. She just walked, silent, broken, invisible. Behind her, the gate buzzed and began to close. But what Lina didn't know, what Vivian didn't know, was that just moments later, a sleek black car pulled up to the mansion. The engine purred softly as it came to a stop. The driver's door opened, and out stepped Ethan Clark. Tall, sharp-featured, dressed in a charcoal suit that fit him perfectly. His dark eyes scanned the driveway, and for a brief moment, they lingered on the wet footprints leading away from the house. He frowned. Then he walked toward the front door, completely unaware of the girl who had just been destroyed at his doorstep. What happens when Ethan finds out the truth? And who is Harold Stone really? And what is he planning to do for Lina? Keep watching to find out. If this story is moving you, smash that like button, subscribe, and share it with someone who believes in second chances. The rain had stopped by evening, but the streets were still slick and dark, reflecting the orange glow of streetlights. Near the same bench where Lina had given away her last money, a small crowd began to gather. Someone screamed, "He's not moving. Someone call an ambulance." People pulled out their phones, voices overlapping in panic. A woman knelt down beside the bench, shaking the old man's shoulder gently. "Sir? Sir, can you hear me?" But the old man didn't respond. His body was slumped to the side, his head resting against the wet wood. His breathing was shallow, his face pale and damp with sweat. The money Lina had given him was still clutched tightly in his hand. Within minutes, the wail of sirens cut through the night. An ambulance pulled up to the curb, lights flashing red and white. Paramedics jumped out, moving quickly and efficiently. "Make space." Everyone stepped back. They lifted him onto a stretcher, checking his pulse, his breathing, his pupils. One of them frowned. "He's in shock. Possible malnutrition. We need to get him to the hospital now." The ambulance doors slammed shut, and the vehicle sped off into the night, leaving the crowd behind, murmuring and shaking their heads. "Poor man," someone said. "He's been sitting there for weeks. No one ever helped him." At the hospital, the emergency room buzzed with controlled chaos. Doctors and nurses moved swiftly, calling out orders, hooking the old man up to monitors and IVs. BP is low. Heart rate irregular. Get him stabilized. One of the nurses leaned over him, trying to get a response. "Sir, can you tell us your name? Do you have any family we can contact?" The old man's eyes fluttered open briefly, unfocused and distant. His lips moved, but no sound came out. "Sir, stay with us. What's your name?" Still nothing. The doctor sighed and turned to the nurse. Check his pockets. See if there's any ID. The nurse searched carefully, but found nothing. No wallet, no phone, no identification. Just the crumpled bill in his hand and a torn piece of cloth tucked into his coat pocket. Nothing, doctor. He's a John Doe. The doctor frowned, then glanced at the monitors. Run a full panel and get someone from admin to check missing persons reports. Maybe someone's looking for him. An hour later, in a quiet office on the hospital's third floor, a young administrator sat at her desk, scrolling through missing persons databases. She paused. Her eyes widened. She zoomed in on a photograph uploaded months ago. The face was cleaner, the beard trimmed, the eyes sharper. But the bone structure, the shape of the jaw, the eyes, it was him. Her hands trembled as she read the name beneath the photo. Harold Stone, age 68. Last seen 6 months ago. Former CEO of Stone Global Industries. Status, missing. She grabbed her phone and dialed quickly. Security? I need you to contact Ethan Clark immediately. Tell him it's urgent. Tell him we found his father. Across the city, in his sleek, modern office on the top floor of a glass tower, Ethan Clark sat behind his desk, reviewing contracts. His phone buzzed. He glanced at the screen. Unknown number. He ignored it. It buzzed again and again. Annoyed, he picked it up. Yes. Mr. Clark? The voice on the other end was shaky, urgent. This is St. Mary's Hospital. We need you to come immediately. Ethan's jaw tightened. I don't have time for it. It's about Harold Stone. Ethan froze. His hand gripped the phone tighter. His heart pounded in his chest. What did you just say? Harold Stone, sir. We believe we found him. He collapsed earlier this evening. He's here, alive, but he's asking for someone. Ethan stood up abruptly, his chair rolling back and hitting the wall. I'm on my way. He grabbed his coat and ran. When Ethan arrived at the hospital, he moved through the halls like a man possessed. Nurses pointed him toward the ICU. His footsteps echoed sharply against the tile floors. He reached the room and stopped in the doorway. There, lying in the hospital bed, frail and thin, was the man he hadn't seen in 6 months. His father, Harold Stone. Ethan's breath caught in his throat. His hands clenched into fists at his sides. For months, he had searched, hired investigators, offered rewards, followed every lead, and nothing. His father had vanished like smoke. And now here he was, alive, but barely. Ethan stepped inside slowly, his voice tight with emotion. Dad! Harold's eyes were closed. His breathing was steady but weak. Machines beeped softly around him. A doctor approached from behind. Mr. Clark, he said quietly. He's stable now, but he's been severely malnourished, dehydrated. We don't know how long he's been living on the streets. Ethan's jaw clenched. Has he said anything? The doctor hesitated. Only one thing. Over and over. What? The doctor met his eyes. Find the girl in the rain. Ethan frowned. What does that mean? We don't know. But he won't stop saying it. We thought maybe you'd understand. Ethan stared down at his father, confusion and frustration warring inside him. The girl in the rain? Then the doctor handed him a tablet. We pulled security footage from the area where he collapsed. There's something you should see. Ethan took the tablet and pressed play. The screen showed a busy roadside. Rain pouring down. People rushing past. And then her. A young woman in a red blouse and white skirt, soaking wet, kneeling in the rain in front of his father. She was handing him money. Ethan's breath stopped. He zoomed in on her face. She was crying, smiling, her eyes full of warmth and sorrow, and something he hadn't seen in years. Genuine kindness. He watched as she stood, said something to his father, and walked away. And his father sat there, staring after her, tears streaming down his face. Ethan's chest tightened. Who is she? He whispered. The doctor shook his head. We don't know. But your father hasn't stopped asking for her. Ethan replayed the footage again and again. And then, slowly, a realization began to dawn on him. He had seen her before. Earlier that day. Wet footprints on his driveway. Vivian's voice, cold and dismissive. I sent her away. She was late. Unpresentable. Desperate. Ethan's blood ran cold. No, he whispered. He looked down at his father, then back at the screen. The girl in the rain. The girl who had saved his father's life. the girl Vivian had destroyed. And in that moment, Ethan Clark realized that fate had just handed him a debt he could never repay. What'll Ethan do now? We find Lina in time? And what secret is Harold hiding about why he disappeared? Keep watching to find out. If this story has you hooked, like, subscribe, and share it with someone who believes miracles are real. Lina sat on the edge of her mother's bed, wringing out a damp cloth and placing it gently on her forehead. Her mother's breathing was labored, her skin hot to the touch. She hadn't eaten in 2 days. The fever wouldn't break. "Mama, please," Lina whispered, her voice cracking. Just a few more sips of water. But her mother only turned her head away, too weak to respond. Lina's eyes burned with unshed tears. She had no money for medicine, no money for a doctor, no money for anything. The rent was overdue. The landlord had given them 3 more days. After that, they would be on the street. She buried her face in her hands, her body trembling with exhaustion and despair. Then a knock at the door. Lina froze. Her heart pounded. Was it the landlord? Had he come early? She stood slowly, wiped her face, and walked to the door. She opened it just a crack, and her breath caught. Standing in front of her was a man in a tailored charcoal suit. Tall, sharp-featured, his dark eyes calm but piercing. Ethan Clark. Lina's mind raced. She recognized him instantly, not from meeting him, but from the photographs she had seen online when she applied for the job. The homeowner, the man whose mansion she had been rejected from. Her stomach dropped. "Miss Moore," Ethan said, his voice smooth and steady. Lina nodded slowly, her throat dry. "Yes. My name is Ethan Clark. May I come in?" She hesitated, then stepped aside. Ethan entered the small, cramped room. His eyes swept over the peeling paint, the single mattress on the floor, the flickering bulb overhead. But his expression didn't change. No judgment, no pity. He turned to face her. "I'm here to offer you a job." Lina blinked. "A job?" "Yes, a temporary caregiving position. I need someone to look after an elderly man who's recovering in my home. He's frail. He needs patience, kindness, and care." Lina's heart raced. "But I was already rejected. Your fiancé." "I know," Ethan said quietly. "And I'm sorry for that. This offer is coming directly from me." Lina stared at him, searching his face for answers. "Why now? Why her?" "I don't understand," she said softly. "Why me?" Ethan's gaze softened slightly. "Because I believe you're the right person for this job. And because I think you need it." Lina's chest tightened. She looked back toward her mother's bed, then back at Ethan. "How much does it pay?" "Enough to cover your rent, your mother's medicine, and meals for both of you." Lina's knees nearly buckled. She nodded quickly, her voice barely a whisper. "I'll take it." Ethan's lips curved into the faintest hint of a smile. "Good. You start tomorrow." The next morning, Lina stood in front of the same mansion gates that had been slammed in her face just days before. But this time, they opened for her. She walked up the stone pathway, her heart pounding, her hands clammy. A housekeeper met her at the door and led her inside without a word. The interior was even more stunning than she had imagined. Marble floors, crystal chandeliers, tall windows that let in streams of golden light. But Lina didn't have time to admire it. The housekeeper stopped in front of a large bedroom door on the 2nd floor. "He's in here," she said quietly. "Be gentle. He's still recovering." Lina nodded and stepped inside, and then she froze. Lying in the bed, propped up by pillows, was the old man from the bench. Harold. Her breath caught. Her eyes widened. It was him, the beggar, the man she had given her last money to. But now he was clean. His beard was trimmed. His skin had color. His clothes were soft and white. And when his eyes met hers, they flickered with recognition. A faint smile tugged at his lips. "You," he whispered. Lina's throat tightened. She stepped closer, her voice soft. "Pop, it's you." Harold nodded slowly, tears glistening in his eyes. The girl in the rain. Lina's own tears fell. She knelt beside the bed and took his hand gently. "I'm here now, Papa. I'll take care of you." And for the first time in months, Harold Stone felt something he thought he'd lost forever. Hope. Over the next few days, Lina devoted herself to Harold's care. She fed him small meals, made sure he took his medicine, read to him when he was restless. She spoke to him with respect, with warmth, with the kind of dignity no one had shown him in months. And Harold responded. He grew stronger. His eyes brightened. His voice steadied. But not everyone in the house was pleased. Vivian watched from the shadows, her eyes cold and calculating. She hated the way Ethan looked at Lina, the way he thanked her, the way he seemed softer around her. And she hated the way the old man smiled at Lina like she was something precious. One afternoon, Vivian cornered Lina in the hallway. "You," she snapped. Lina turned, startled. Vivian stepped closer, her voice low and venomous. "I don't know what game you're playing, but I see right through you." Lina's brow furrowed. "I'm not playing any game, ma'am. I'm just doing my job." "Don't lie to me," Vivian hissed. "You're trying to seduce Ethan. I see the way you look at him." Lina's eyes widened. "What? No, shut up." Vivian's hand shot out and grabbed Lina's wrist tightly. "You listen to me, girl. You're here because Ethan pitted you. Nothing more. And the moment you step out of line, I will make sure you're thrown back into the gutter where you belong." Lina pulled her hand away, her heart pounding. Vivian smirked. "Now get back to work. The old man's room is filthy. Clean it. And scrub the floors in the east wing while you're at it." Lina nodded silently and walked away, her hands trembling. That night, Lina was finishing her chores when she heard voices. Low, hushed, coming from Vivian's room. She paused outside the door, her heart racing. "I told you, Marcus, I'm handling it," Vivian's voice said, sharp and irritated. A man's voice responded, smooth and amused. "You're taking too long, Viv. When are you going to get rid of him?" Lina's blood ran cold. "Soon," Vivian said. "Once the old man dies, Ethan inherits everything. And once we're married, half of it becomes mine. Then we'll deal with Ethan." Lina's hand flew to her mouth. She stepped back quietly, her mind reeling. Then she turned and ran. When Lina got home that night, her mother was lying on the floor, unconscious. Lina screamed. What will Lina do now? Will she tell Ethan the truth? And will her mother survive? Keep watching to find out. If this story has you on the edge of your seat, smash that like button, subscribe, and share it with someone who loves a good twist. The hospital corridor was cold and sterile, filled with the sharp smell of antiseptic and the distant beeping of machines. Lina sat on a plastic chair outside the emergency room, her hands clasped tightly together, her body trembling. Inside, doctors worked frantically to stabilize her mother. She had been unconscious when Lina found her, barely breathing. Her lips had turned blue. Lina had screamed for help. A neighbor had called an ambulance. And now here she was, waiting, praying, dying inside. The emergency room doors swung open. A doctor stepped out, his face grim, his scrubs stained. Lina shot to her feet. "Doctor? Is she?" "She's stable for now," he said, his tone heavy. "But barely." Lina's knees buckled with relief, but the doctor raised a hand. "Miss Moore, your mother's condition is critical. Her heart is failing. She needs surgery immediately. Without it, she won't survive the week." Lina's breath caught. "Surgery? How soon?" "Within the next 48 hours. "Then do it," Lina said quickly, her voice desperate. "Please, save her." The doctor's expression softened with pity. "Miss Moore, the surgery costs $300,000, and that doesn't include the post-op care, medication, or hospital stay." Lina's world stopped. 300,000. She didn't have 300. She barely had 30. Her voice came out as a whisper. "How much total?" "Close to $500,000. The hallway spun. Lina grabbed the wall to steady herself. I don't have that," she said, her voice breaking. "I don't have anything." The doctor sighed. "I'm sorry. We can keep her comfortable, but without this surgery..." He didn't finish the sentence. He didn't have to. Lina's vision blurred with tears. Her chest heaved. She slid down the wall and collapsed onto the floor, her hands covering her face. "No," she sobbed. "No, no, no." The doctor placed a hand on her shoulder briefly, then walked away, leaving her alone in the empty hallway. Lina sat there, her body shaking with grief and terror. She had worked so hard, sacrificed everything, done everything right, and still it wasn't enough. She looked up at the fluorescent lights overhead, her face wet with tears. God, she whispered, her voice raw. Please, I'm begging you. Don't take her from me. Not like this. Please. Her sobs echoed through the hallway. She had no money, no options, no miracle. 3 hours later, Lina sat in the same spot, her eyes red and swollen, her body numb. Footsteps approached. A nurse knelt down beside her, her face full of confusion and wonder. Miss Moore. Lina looked up slowly. The nurse's eyes were wide. I don't understand what just happened. But your mother's surgery, it's been paid for. Lina blinked. What? Everything, the nurse said, her voice trembling with disbelief. The surgery, the medications, the hospital stay, all of it, fully covered. Lina's heart stopped. That's not possible. Who? Anonymous donor, the nurse said. The payment came through an hour ago. We've already scheduled the surgery for tomorrow morning. Lina's mouth opened, but no words came out. Her hand shook. Her chest heaved. Are you sure? She whispered. The nurse nodded, tears in her own eyes. Yes, your mother's going to be okay. Lina's face crumpled. She broke down, sobbing so hard she couldn't breathe. The nurse held her gently, whispering, It's a miracle, a real miracle. That night, Lina returned to the mansion in a daze. Her mother was stable. The surgery was scheduled. Everything was paid for, but she had no idea who had saved them. She walked through the quiet hallways, her mind spinning, her heart overwhelmed. And then she heard a voice. Lina. She turned. Harold was sitting up at his bed, his eyes clear and warm. He gestured to the chair beside him. Come, sit with me. Lina hesitated, then walked over and sat down slowly. Harold smiled faintly. How is your mother? Lina's throat tightened. She's going to have surgery tomorrow. Someone paid for it. I don't know who, but her voice broke. I don't know how to thank them. Harold's smile deepened. You don't have to thank anyone, he said softly. You already did. Lina frowned, confused. What do you mean? Harold reached out and took her hand gently. Lina, he said, his voice steady and full of emotion. It's time I told you the truth. Lina's heart began to race. Harold took a deep breath. My name is Harold Stone. Lina blinked. The name sounded familiar, but she couldn't place it. Harold continued. I was the CEO of Stone Global Industries. A billionaire. I had everything, money, power, influence. But I lost something far more valuable. He paused, his eyes glistening. I lost my faith in people. Lina's breath caught. I was betrayed, Harold said quietly. By people I trusted, people I loved. They took everything from me. And in my anger and despair, I walked away. I disappeared. I wanted to see if anyone in this world still cared. If kindness still existed. His grip on her hand tightened. I sat on that bench for weeks. Hundreds of people passed me. Thousands. And not one of them stopped. His voice cracked. Until you. Lina's eyes filled with tears. You gave me your last money, Harold said, his voice thick with emotion. You didn't know me. You didn't know me anything. But you saw me. You treated me like a human being. You sacrificed everything you had to help a stranger. He lifted her hand to his chest. Lina, you didn't just save my life that day. You restored my faith in humanity. You reminded me that goodness still exists, that people still care. Lina's tears spilled over. Harold's own tears fell freely now. So when I found out about your mother, he said, his voice breaking, I did what any decent man would do. I paid for her surgery because you gave me something far more valuable than money. He smiled through his tears. You gave me hope. Lina's body shook with sobs. She covered her face with her hands, overwhelmed by gratitude, disbelief, and love. Harold pulled her into a gentle embrace. Thank you, my child, he whispered. Thank you for seeing me. Lina clung to him, crying into his shoulder, unable to speak. And in that moment, two broken souls, one rich, one poor, found healing in each other's kindness. But the story isn't over yet. Vivian is still plotting, and Ethan is about to discover a truth that will change everything. Keep watching to see what happens next. If this story moved your heart, like this video, subscribe, and share it with someone who needs to believe in miracles. It happened on a Thursday evening. Harold was sitting in the living room, staring out the window at the rain. His hands trembled slightly, his breathing uneven. He was having one of his episodes, moments when the trauma of betrayal and loneliness came flooding back. Lina knelt beside him, speaking softly, holding his hand. "Papa, it's okay. You're safe. I'm here." Harold's eyes were distant, lost in memory. And then Vivian walked in. She stood in the doorway, arms crossed, her face twisted with disgust. "This is pathetic," she said coldly. Lina looked up, her eyes narrowing. "Excuse me?" Vivian stepped forward, her heels clicking sharply against the marble floor. "This old man," she said, gesturing dismissively at Harold. "He's useless. He's a burden, and I'm sick of watching him take up space in my house." Lina stood slowly, her body tense. "This is not your house, Vivian, and he is not a burden." Vivian laughed bitterly. "Oh, please, don't play the saint with me. You're just as opportunistic as everyone else. You saw a rich old man and latched on." Lina's jaw clenched. "You don't know what you're talking about." "Don't I?" Vivian stepped closer, her voice dripping with venom. "I know exactly what you are. A poor, desperate girl who got lucky. But your luck is running out." She turned to Harold, her eyes cold. "You need to leave. Now, before I call security and have you dragged out." Harold's breathing quickened. His hands shook harder. Lina stepped between them, her voice firm and unwavering. "No!" Vivian's eyes flashed with rage. "What did you just say?" "I said no." Lina's voice was steady, but her hands trembled. "You will not touch him. You will not speak to him like that. And you will not throw him out of this house." Vivian's face turned red. "You have no authority here. You're just a help. And you," Lina said, her voice rising, "are nothing but a cruel, selfish woman who cares about no one but herself." Vivian raised her hand to slap Lina, but before she could, a voice cut through the air like a blade. "Enough." Everyone froze. Ethan stood in the doorway, his face dark with fury. Vivian's hand dropped. Her face went pale. "Ethan," she said quickly, forcing a smile. I heard everything." Ethan said, his voice ice cold. Vivian's smile faltered. Ethan stepped forward, his eyes locked on hers. "I've been watching you, Vivian, for weeks, and I know the truth." Vivian's face went white. "What are you talking about?" Ethan pulled out his phone and pressed play. Vivian's voice filled the room. "Once the old man dies, Ethan inherits everything. And once we're married, half of it becomes mine. Then we'll deal with Ethan." The recording continued. Her laughter. Marcus's voice. The plan lay bare. Vivian's mouth opened and closed like a fish out of water. That's not. "It's over," Ethan said flatly. "Security is already packing your things. You have 1 hour to leave. If you're not gone by then, I'll have you arrested for conspiracy and fraud." Vivian's eyes filled with tears, not of sadness, but of rage. "You can't do this to me," she screamed. "I gave you everything." "You gave me nothing," Ethan said, his voice steady. "You were using me, just like you used everyone else." Vivian's face twisted with hatred. She glared at Lina. "This is your fault," she hissed. "You ruined everything." Lina said nothing. She simply stood there, calm and dignified. Vivian turned and stormed out, her heels echoing through the hallway. The door slammed behind her. Silence filled the room. Ethan turned to Lina, his expression softening. "Are you okay?" Lina nodded slowly, still processing what had just happened. Ethan looked at his father, his voice gentle. "Dad!" Harold lifted his head, tears streaming down his face. "She stood up for me," he whispered. "She protected me." Ethan smiled faintly. "I know, Dad. She's remarkable." 2 weeks later, Lina's mother was released from the hospital. The surgery had been a success. She was weak, but recovering. And for the first time in months, she smiled. Harold insisted on hosting a celebration at the mansion. The dining room was filled with light, laughter, and warmth. Lina's mother sat at the head of the table, tears of joy in her eyes. Lina sat beside her, holding her hand. Harold stood, raising his glass. "I want to say something," he began, his voice strong and clear. The room fell silent. "Months ago, I lost everything," Harold said. "My business, my family, my faith in people. I thought the world had forgotten how to love, how to care. He looked at Lina, his eyes shining. But then I met a girl in the rain. A girl who gave me her last money. A girl who saw me not as a burden, but as a human being. His voice cracked. Lina, you saved my life. But more than that, you reminded me what it means to be alive. To believe. To hope. He raised his glass higher. From this day forward, you are not just my caregiver. You are my daughter, my family, and I will spend the rest of my life making sure you never have to struggle again. Lina's tears fell freely. Everyone stood and applauded. And then Ethan rose from his seat. He walked over to Lina, his eyes locked on hers. The room went quiet. Ethan knelt down in front of her. Lina's breath caught. Lina, Ethan said softly, his voice trembling. You changed my father's life, but you also changed mine. He took her hand. You showed me what true kindness looks like, what strength looks like, what love looks like. He pulled out a small velvet box and opened it. Inside was a ring, simple, elegant, beautiful. I don't deserve you, Ethan said, his voice breaking. But I'm asking anyway. Will you marry me? Lina's hands flew to her mouth. Her body shook with sobs. She nodded, unable to speak. Yes, she finally whispered. Yes. Ethan slipped the ring onto her finger and pulled her into his arms. The room erupted in cheers. Lina's mother wept with joy. Harold clapped, his face glowing with pride. And outside, the rain began to fall. Soft, gentle, beautiful. The same rain that had once soaked her to the bone. The same rain that had broken her. Now crowned her. Because the girl who gave her last dollar in the rain had just been given the world. And that, my friends, is how one act of kindness changed everything. If this story touched your heart, smash that like button, subscribe to this channel, and share this video with someone who needs to believe that good things still happen to good people. Drop a comment below and tell me, would you have given away your last money? Let's keep spreading hope together. See you in the next story.